What is up, everybody? Welcome to Let Todd Cook. I am Todd Jones II, and today we're going to be making some tamales. So one year, I was like, I want some tamales, but I don't want to buy any. I want to understand how to make them. They've always been interesting to me because how did they get everything inside of the corn husk? One year, I was like, you know what? I'm not buying none. I'm going to take the time to learn how to make them myself. And to my surprise, they weren't even that hard to make. They just seemed super complicated for some reason. But I figured it out, been perfecting this recipe over the years, and I'm finally ready to share it with y'all in this video right here. So if you guys are ready to, you know, make some tamales, hit that thumbs up button and let me cook. First off, we got to start by boiling our chilies. Now these chilies are going to be used for the meat and the masa. So it's going to give the masa a little bit of flavor and a little bit of color as well. Right here I have the arbol chilies. Next up we got the ancho chilies. Next up we got the puya chili pods right here. And then next up we got the guajillos, and all of these are going to get mixed up into a bowl. And let's start boiling these bad boys up. So we're just going to dump these into our pot. We're going to leave the seeds in as well. Next up, we got the anchos, and now we got the puya chilies. And then let's go ahead and add the guajillos. All right, now let's get some water in this pot. So I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of chicken bouillon. So we got it on the stove. Make sure all the chilies are in there. So what we're gonna do now is wait for the water to come to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, we're gonna throw a top on it, drop the heat to a medium, and then we're gonna wait for these stems to kind of fall off. So let's wait for it to boil. All right, so once your pot comes to a boil like this, we can go ahead and drop the heat to about a medium. All right, then we're just gonna drop the top. All right, so now the top is dropped on the pot, dang, I got rhymes. We're gonna let that vibe out for about 30 minutes and come back and check on it. And the goal is for the stems to fall off. And once the stems fall off, that's when we'll know that it's time to pull them from the heat and get them into a blender. All right, so it's been 30 minutes and let's go ahead and see where we're at. Okay, stems aren't quite falling off just yet. All right, so we're gonna continue for about 15 more minutes and we'll check them again. All right, so it's been about 15 more minutes. Let's see if the stems start falling off. You're close. Okay, it shouldn't be this much effort to get it to fall off, but as you can see, it's pretty much ready to come off. It's hanging on by a thread in there. A lot of them have already kind of came off. There we go. Yeah, I think these are good to go. I'm gonna kill the heat and let's transfer everything into a blender. All right, so we're just gonna take each and every one of these chilies, and if they have something hanging out like that, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull it out. All right, so from here, we're just gonna grab these chilies and toss them into the blender. Make sure that the stems are not attached like I just did. Yeah, these, they don't belong in there. Now as for the seeds, if you don't want any seeds, feel free to take them all out. But if you don't mind, obviously just leave them in. All right, so now we're just gonna take a cup of this chili water. Okay, that's a little bit less than a cup, but we're gonna make it right. About a cup of the chili water. I'm also gonna do another 2 tablespoons of chicken bouillon. It's all about flavor. It's all about flavor. Obviously the chilies have flavor themselves, but you know, it never hurts to enhance the flavor. So we're gonna put that on top and we're gonna blend it up. So ever since I learned how to make tamales, my Nana, grandma, rest in peace, she used to always request them whenever she came to town. She was like, grandson, I need some of those. I need you to make me some of those tamales, but make sure they hot enough to make my booty hole burn. Like, man, rest in peace to my Nana, man. So every time I make tamales now, she for sure is on my heart and my mind. If you like them hot, I know how to make them hot. All right, so this stuff is pretty thick right now. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit more of that chili water to it. So whenever you guys are doing it, make sure you guys are just paying attention to the consistency of the chilies. And if it looks too thick, just add a little bit of chili water and you know, just kind of work with it until it gets thin, because we are going to be straining it in just a second. And if you don't want to use this chili water, feel free to add chicken broth, water. Although if you do add water, it is going to dilute your flavor, so keep that in mind. In my opinion, that's still pretty thick. I'm going to add a little bit more of this chili water. Keep in mind, these are your tamales. You can make them however you like. Let's go one more. We're getting there. That's perfect. So now what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna take this from here and I'm gonna strain it into another bowl. All I'm looking for is liquid. I don't need anything extra. Again, this is optional. If you wanna, mix this into your masa and your meats just like this, that's perfectly fine. But I'm going for the liquids. All right, so here we go. Let's start with the straining. Let's get a little bit of my handy dandy strainer. And what we're gonna do is push that juice right on through. So keep in mind, guys, if you guys are leaving seeds in, seeds are gonna make it a lot more spicier. So if you don't like spice, be sure to take those seeds out. I would probably even take them out before you start boiling them. Probably should have mentioned that earlier, huh? All right, so after straining everything, your consistency should look something like that. So now is gonna be a great time to taste what we just made. And from here, we can make our adjustments, whether it's too spicy or not enough flavor. Like this is when we're gonna make the adjustments right now. So let me see. You got a lot of spice to it. So in the event that your chili is too spicy, all you're gonna need to do is dilute it with a little bit of water. And to get the flavor in, you can use salt, pepper, and in my case, I'm gonna use some chicken bouillon to build that flavor back up. So let me add about a cup of water to this and then I'll taste it and we can tweak it from there. So here's my 1 cup of water. I'm gonna add it in. And I'm also going to do 1 more tablespoon of chicken bouillon because I already know. I just tasted it and I know that it needs a little bit more seasoning. So, but I don't wanna take too much spice away because it's just gonna be added to masa. So I'm pretty satisfied with the taste. So let's move on to the next step. All right, so now it is time to work on our protein and I'm going to start out with beef. Now, one of the cool things about tamales is that you literally can get the masa ready and stuff it with anything that you like. So we got beef, we also have chicken, and we also have pork. So we're starting with the beef first. We're gonna get it cut up and then we're gonna get it on a cast iron skillet. So this right here is a beef chuck roast. I just like to get it cut down to size, cook a little bit faster. I'm gonna take this and get it cut into some chunks. Now you can leave the fat on or take it off. I'm gonna take it off, but this fat is gonna help with the flavor. But you see how like flappy it is? Like we don't want that. Please take it off. So it's very important to season your meat and I'm going to put together a meat rub for this meat right here, for this beef. So I'm gonna go with about a tablespoon and a half of salt. I got the coarse salt. I just feel like it works a lot better when you're dealing with beef. About a tablespoon of paprika, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, tablespoon of onion powder, then a little bit of black pepper. I'll do about a teaspoon and a half. Let's go ahead and give this all a good mix. And there you go, you just made a beef rub. Actually, I forgot an ingredient, chili powder. It's a secret ingredient, y'all. You can do like maybe 2 teaspoons of chili powder. Now we're just gonna use that seasonings and put it on the meat, all sides. Boom. Now me personally, I think that, taking this much time and effort into your meats really makes the difference between, some just tamales and tamales. All of these steps will for sure pay off in the end. So if you got some on the cutting board, some seasoning on the cutting board, just go ahead and mop it up. So whenever I'm like using meats in like a crock pot or an Instant Pot or a pressure cooker, I like to always go in with the cast iron skillet first. I like to brown my meat first, and then I like to throw it into the crock pot, or whatever kind of cooker I'm using at the time. There's something about boiling meat by itself. It just don't sit right with my soul. So I take the extra step to brown it before I do all of that. So that's what we're doing here. So I guess I should say this is optional, but in my opinion, you should for sure just, take the extra time to get it right. You'll thank yourself in the end. There we go. Just, if you got a little bit of extra seasoning left over, just toss it on there. Now let's head over to the cast iron skillet and let's move on to the next step. So I'm going to let you know right now about a little tip that I like to do when it comes to cast iron, or pretty much anytime I'm working with a skillet or a pan. I like to set it on medium heat and let it preheat for 5 minutes. And once it hits that 5-minute mark, I crank it up, add my oil in, and then I add my meat. So here we go. So I just added some avocado oil, and then that's some butter. Here we go. Now lay that in there, start building a little crust. All these extra steps are gonna be worth it, trust me. Now we're just trying to brown all sides as best as we can. All right, so we just moved on to the crock pot and we got the beef here. We're just gonna simply dump the beef over. All right, yeah, get all of that juice in there because y'all should already know at this point, that juice is flavor. What's up, buddy?
What does it called?
Oh, you don't know what it is?
No.
It's beef.
What's beef?
That's beef.
What's beef though? Cows eat beef.
So here is some of the red sauce that we made up earlier. I'm just gonna pour some of it over. And I think that's good. So you don't want to do all of it because we got to save some of the red sauce for the masa. All right, so I know this looks a little crazy. I just took the bowl from what the beef was chilling in and I added some water to it. And I'm gonna go 2 tablespoons of chicken bouillon, only because I don't have any chicken broth. If you guys are doing this, make sure you guys have some chicken broth on deck. I'm doing like a little makeshift chicken broth. Go ahead and give this a mix. When I don't have chicken broth on hand, I normally would just take some water and some chicken bouillon and I'll make my own chicken broth. So then we're gonna put that right into the crock pot on the beef. Sometimes we just have to improvise and use what we have. Might need a little bit more water with that, but we're looking good. So now I'm gonna toss in some diced green chilies. Just add them in there. I have a can of this El Pato tomato sauce with jalapeno. So we're just gonna go in with that too. Pour the whole thing in. And then this salsa de jalapeno, El Pato, and go in with that too. Last but not least, we're gonna go in with medium yellow onion. Just kind of break it apart. And there we have it. So since it's in the crock pot, this is probably gonna take about 4 hours to complete. So we're just gonna let that vibe out and we're gonna work on our next protein, which is going to be chicken. So now we're moving on to the chicken. I just rinsed off my chicken and I patted it dry, so it's pretty dry to touch. And now I'm just gonna hit it with some of this chicken seasoning because we are going to be pan or skillet frying these as well. So you can go as generous as you like. So make sure you got some flavor on your chicken. Go ahead and flip it over. Also, while you're seasoning your chicken, make sure your skillet is being preheated for 5 minutes on medium heat. So that way when you're done seasoning, you'll be able to just run right over to the stove and add your chicken. So we're gonna add a little bit of avocado oil to the skillet. That right there is my timer to let me know that it is time to put the chicken in the skillet. So avocado oil, butter, and then once this butter gets melted down, we're gonna toss our chicken in. And here we go. We're gonna do about maybe 2 minutes per side and then we can set them to the side. As you can tell, I'm using chicken thighs. Now you can go with breasts or thighs, but I like to rock with the thighs because the thighs, they hold more juice in the meat. You know, it's just more juicier. And the chicken breast tends to dry out a whole lot easier than chicken thighs. So we got chicken thighs with the bone in. Once these get in the crock pot, this bone is gonna fall right out. So this won't be in the final product, obviously. But let's go ahead and check on this chicken right here. That's looking good. It's looking good. Let's leave it on there for a few more seconds and then we can flip. Oh yeah, it's looking beautiful. Now the idea is not to cook these right here. It's just to build that crust and in turn we're building flavor. So now that our chicken has been skillet seared, just gonna toss it in the crock pot in no particular order. We just wanna get it all in there. We got some leftover juice from the chicken that's just been sitting, and we're gonna add that in because flavor. Now we're gonna add in this chili verde sauce that I made up the other day. There is a short, if you guys wanna learn how to make this chili verde sauce, just go and check out my chili verde enchilada video and this will teach you how to make this. But we're just gonna add this right on top of all of that chicken. Just gonna move the chicken around to let that chili verde get to the bottom. Oh yeah, that's gonna be good. I'm also gonna add some of these diced green chilies to this as well, right over the top. That's pretty much it. Put the top on and let it do its thing in the crock pot for about 4 hours on high, 8 hours on low. We're gonna go 4 hours high and we're gonna come back and check in on it. Yeah, so let's get this out of the way. And last but not least, we're gonna work on this pork. So let's do it. All right, and last but not least, we got this pork shoulder. And actually I'm supposed to get a pork butt because this pork shoulder does have a bone in it. So I'm gonna do my best to, you know, cut all of this meat off of the bone. And we're gonna slice it into smaller pieces and then you already know. We're gonna head back over to the cast iron, get it browned up, and then throw it in the pressure cooker. So let's get to deboning. All right, so the pork is all cut up. I was able to get around the bone and let's just go ahead and season it up pretty generously. So let's go ahead and add in the avocado oil, just like we did with the other 2 proteins, and then add in your butter. All right, now let's add in your pork. So we got all the pork in the skillet. We're just gonna let it brown up. And don't do like I just did. I really overstuffed this pan. Do it in segments. So this is why we don't overcrowd our pot. Here's a lesson. You guys see all of this moisture, all of this extra juice that was created by the overcrowding of the pot. That's not what we want. We were looking to get these crispy, and now that they can't be crispy because there's too much moisture inside of the skillet. So in order to correct this, I'm going to need to take out all of this meat and kind of gradually add things back in here. So I got a lot of the meat out of it. So the goal now is to let this moisture kind of evaporate. I have the stove on high heat, so it shouldn't take too long for this to cook out. I knew it was a bad idea as I was doing it, but I've been in the kitchen cooking pretty much all day, and I tried to take a shortcut. And cooking and shortcuts, they don't mix. You really gotta take your time if you wanna create a good dish. But as you can see, it's already starting to cook out a little bit. Now we're gonna add the ones that we took out from earlier back in here and kind of neatly arrange them instead of just tossing them all in at one time. All right, our pork is finally done. Let's go ahead and transfer. Hopefully it doesn't create a big mess. Let's add in the diced green chilies once again. Our chili verde. And let's give it a good little mix to let all that chili verde sauce gravitate to the bottom. Separate the onion and toss it in, and into the pressure cooker it goes. That's gonna take maybe about an hour to cook, or pressure cook if you will. And yeah, so that's gonna be the quickest thing done. I ran out of crock pots, so the pressure cooker is going to have to work for the pork, but it's all good. So now we're gonna work on the masa, and I'm gonna be using this masa mix right here. It's just an instant corn masa mix, and it calls for 1 cup of lard. We're gonna actually work this lard in first. Just kind of get it loosened up. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, because the warmth of your hands is gonna help get this to the right consistency. So after you get the lard worked in, we're gonna add in 4 cups of the instant masa mix. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're gonna add in 1 tablespoon of baking powder and 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Here's a pro tip right here. That chili water that we created with the chilies, make sure y'all save that, because we're gonna use that for the masa, and we're gonna use 3 cups of that. 1, it's about 1 right there. 2, about 3 cups right there. So you can also use water, but this got flavor in it. Water doesn't have flavor. Make sure this chili water mix is warm as well. So now what we're gonna do is start incorporating everything, get everything mixed in, and we'll have masa in no time. Now this should take about anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. You don't gotta be here all day, all night, combining all of the ingredients to make your masa. As you can see, it's already starting to take form. Add a little bit more liquid. So right here is the chili mix, the one that we strained earlier. This is also another secret ingredient that we're gonna add to our masa. Not too much. So that's giving it color and flavor right there. All right, so you guys see how it's actually really thick. So you can do one of 2 things. You can either add more liquid, or you can add vegetable oil, or you can do both, like I'm about to do. Right here's a little bit of vegetable oil. Just kind of do a little bit and work a little bit in at a time, because you can always add more, but you cannot take away. All right, so once you get it to the consistency how you like it, I think I like mine just like about like right there. So I think that I'm good to go. And so yeah, so that's how you make masa. So in order to make sure that your masa is good, you gotta taste it. So don't be afraid to like get a little piece of that, taste the flavor of it. You can kind of adjust from there. I think that it needs a little bit more, you guessed it, chicken bouillon. So I'm gonna add some of that to mine, but however you like your masa to taste, that's how you do it. But for me, I'm gonna add a little bit more seasoning and get it mixed in. Then I can move on to the next step, which will be spreading. This is how my chicken turned out. I've already removed all the bones, and this is what we're left with. So man, this chicken is going to be so good. I really hope y'all try out this recipe. So right now it's officially time to spread the masa onto the husk. Okay, so quick tip, you guys want to make sure that we're spreading the masa on the correct side. So you hear that? And you hear this. Big difference. So this is considered the rough side. We want to go with the smooth side. Smooth like me. Get it laid out on a smooth and clean surface. Take some of this masa, plop it down, and spread. All right, so we got it all laid out right there, all spread out. Kind of just want to go halfway, because you still need room to fold it up. Yeah, it looks pretty good to me. Also, when you first get these things, they're going to be really, really stiff. So you're going to need to submerge them underwater so they get nice and pliable. It's going to be a super tamale. That one's going to be for me. All right, so now you just want to take a spoonful of your filling, you know, put a generous amount in there. Don't be shy. If you want to fill it to the brim, you can. So I'm just going to repeat these same steps with the rest of this chicken and the rest of the beef and the rest of the pork. And yeah, we'll circle back in. So before we can move on to the other tamales, we got to first fill this pot up. So we're going to line them up along the edge all the way around until we meet in the middle. Also, there's water already at the bottom of that. That's going to be the main component, because that's what's going to allow them to steam. Yeah. There we go. We're going to the stove now that all of the chicken tamales have been filled. We're gonna turn that on high heat, bring that water to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, we're gonna throw the top on and keep an eye on it because we don't want the water to evaporate at the bottom. So whenever the water gets low, we gotta add more water in. But if we get to that point, I'll show y'all. So we just knocked out the chicken. Chicken's already on the stove. Now we're gonna start working on building our beef. This is how our beef turned out. Nice and juicy, very flavorful, perfect. It's gonna turn out great. It's gonna turn out amazing. So now, pretty much just like before, we're gonna spread the husk with the masa and then start building them up. So here we go. Can't forget to top it off. Beef is finally ready to go. Toss it on the stove. The same thing. Once it starts boiling, throw your top on and let it rock out for about 4 hours. And last but not least, we got the pork. So pretty much same steps as we did before, but we're gonna do it with pork this time. So sometimes if your husk is a little bit too big, you know, just rip it down the sides, get it down the sides, and I think that's a pretty decent size. Also, if your husk is a little bit moist or wet, just get a napkin, wipe it dry, and proceed. The reason why you don't want a wet husk is because the wetness is gonna make it a little bit harder for the masa to spread out. So you wanna get it nice and dry. Get your pork, put it right down the middle. Remember to not be stingy. Oh, just roll it up. All right, so finally, after that long old process, we finally get the reward. And I took out 1 chicken, 1 pork, 1 beef, so that way I can break into all of them. That way you guys can see exactly how they turned out. And I guarantee if you guys follow this recipe step by step, y'all gonna come back to this video and thank me. You already know. So let's go ahead and open up. I don't even know which one this is, but we're gonna find out here shortly. I think this one right here is chicken. All right, as you can see, it's extremely hot. So I'm just gonna move on to the next one and open this one up. And this right here is the pork. I'll let y'all know which one's my top favorite. Did that even make any sense? And last but not least, we got the beef. Oh man, this one got a nice little masa job on it. All right, so let's start down the line over here with the chicken. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that this is gonna be fire. So let me. 10 out of 10. On to the next. Yeah, actually, this one's pork. This one's my chicken. Here we go. A little close up of that. I know y'all see that steam right there. Please season your meat exactly how I season my meat. Because that right there, 10 out of 10. All right, last but not least, we got the beef right here. Let's go ahead and get that. A little taste test. Look at that. Oh yeah. I'm gonna need this pork. Yeah. I'm not just saying 10 out of 10 because I made it. I'm saying 10 out of 10 because these are fucking awesome. So thank y'all for letting me cook, man.